Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic. The difference between these two is essential in understanding Americanism and the American system. Many have been led to believe that the political spectrum places groups such as communists on the far left, fascists or dictators on the far right, and political moderates or centrists in the middle. However, a more accurate political spectrum will show government having zero power on the far right to having 100% power on the far left. At the extreme right, there is no government. The extreme left features total government under such labels as communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, princes, potentates, dictators, kings, any form of total government. Those who claim that Nazis and fascists are right-wing never define their terms. This amounts to spreading confusion. Toward the middle of the political spectrum can be found the type of government limited to its proper role of protecting the rights of the people. That's where the Constitution of the United States is. Those who advocate such a form of government are really constitutional moderates. Our founding fathers agreed and held that some amount of government is a necessary force in any civilized, orderly society. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratein, meaning to rule. Democracy, therefore, means the rule of the people, majority rule. This, of course, sounds good, but suppose the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children. Obviously, there has to be a limit. The flaw in democracy is that the majority isn't restrained. If more than half the people can be persuaded to want something in a democracy, they rule. What about republic? Well, that comes from the Latin, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public. It means the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is limited by law, leaving the people alone. America's founders had a clean slate to write on. They could have set up an oligarchy. In fact, there were some who wanted George Washington to be their king. But the founding fathers knew history, and they chose to give us the rule of law in a republic, not the rule of a majority in a democracy. Many Americans would be surprised to learn that the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution, nor does it appear in any of the constitutions of the 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison, rightly known as the father of the Constitution, wrote in essay number 10 of the Federalist Papers, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Alexander Hamilton agreed, and he stated, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." The founders had good reason to look upon democracy with contempt because they knew that the democracies in the early Greek city-states produced some of the wildest excesses of government imaginable. In every case, they ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. The essence of freedom is the proper limitation of government. When government power grows, people freedom recedes. Thus, democracy itself is not a stable form of government. Instead, it is the gradual transition from limited government to the unlimited rule of an oligarchy. Knowing this, we as Americans are ultimately left with only two choices. We can keep our republic, as Franklin put it, or we will inevitably end up with an oligarchy a tyranny of the elite.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in today and sticking with that long, cold open. I'm Patrick. I'm in chair today. Joe is out not feeling too well. Sorry, that was change of plans during this morning. We found out, but he's fine, just feeling a little bit under the weather. And we got an awesome in-studio guest today, Jason Lupo.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. So, what'd you think of that video?
I think the video did an excellent job of explaining the difference between a republic and a democracy, and I hear it all the time, right? Like, especially from kind of the more moderate conservatives, Republican candidates, and as well as the Democrats, just consistently, we have a democracy. No, we have a constitutional republic.
Yeah, we have limitations on government, right? And in the heart of our government, our rights of individuals doesn't come from government. Where does it come from?
It comes from God.
Exactly, and that's what our founders believe. And now in 2026, 250 years after the founding of this country, does it really feel those principles are in place today?
No, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, government has just expanded and expanded and expanded, and our ability to function in a free market has gotten less and less and less. And the more that we have bureaucrats and the more that we create more government oversight over pretty much every aspect of our everyday lives, every industry imaginable, we continue to essentially whittle away at what is our God-given rights and also whittle away at what is a free market economy.
And then when you talk about the free market economy, it's not a free market economy when you only have 2 or 3 choices.
Well, we don't have a free market economy in this country at all, right? Like, we no longer have a free market economy. We no longer have an economy that is based off of the will of the people to buy a product, right? Where competitors and businesses are competing for the money of an individual instead, due to the amount of obstacles to entry into some of these industries, as well as the regulation that continues to take place. We've essentially hindered the ability for many Americans and everyday citizens to enter into various markets.
Is that done on purpose, or is that just
it's done on
ignorance?
purpose. 100%. I mean, if you look at it, right, like lobbying and the ability for large corporations to impact what happens in our state legislature and what happens in Congress in order to put in place rules and laws that govern how certain businesses can operate, those large organizations are just fine allowing some of these oversight to happen in order to continue to gatekeep their industry and their organizations from entry into new business.
So we're talking special interests dominating what's going on.
Well, 100%. And you can call it special interest. You can call it whatever you want, right? Like at the end of the day, the more bureaucracy that we have, the more government oversight that we have, the more ability that we have for corruption, right? So now you have corruptible people in every aspect of our government, to where if you are a business owner with any sort of pull, even in your local community, you can get away with more than what other people can. I think we've seen that throughout this state. We've seen this throughout, my county. And there's this very interesting dynamic that's taking place between the idea of like popularism and the idea of more of like a democracy where majority rules versus whittling away at the rights of private landowners. And then you have things like the Ford Amphitheater, where now you have a sound variance that just got put in place down in Colorado Springs. So now they can essentially break the amount of decibels that they were allowed to have, and now they can create more sound in that environment. And the people that live around there are upset. And you can understand the upset people, and at the same time, you can also look at it and go, okay, where do we draw the line between what is right for the citizens and what is right for the landowner and the business that's taking place in these different counties, in these different cities? So it's just a very interesting dynamic, but all of that comes out of the idea of when we start intervening in the free market economy, you get all these jacked up things that happen.
And then you, as the regular person, how does that impact you every day? Not even the person trying to break into the business, but you trying to find that product or find that service or the value of that home.
Let's put it this way. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, the idea of an economy is people competing for the same currency, right? The same dollar. And so, businesses are all competing for your dollar. And when you allow some businesses additional opportunity and you gatekeep other businesses from entering into that market, what tends to happen is prices tend to increase because competition is whittled away. And I think, just looking at this last week and looking at Spirit Airlines, it's a very interesting case study in how government has essentially tried to shape an entire industry, which is the airline industry. And so here they are, Spirit's struggling. They got something like 477 million, I think it was, during COVID, which they never should have shut down the country to begin with. That's the opposite of, what is free market economics as well.
It was selective shutdown. Certain businesses were allowed to operate, but mom and pops all had to close. You could still go to Walmart. You could still go to Sam's Club, get your stuff ordered, picked up, right? But mom and pop shops had to close down.
I mean, you could get your alcohol.
That
you
too.
could get your pot.
Your weed, your porn.
You can't work out because we're going to close down the gyms.
There you go.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think everybody has the ability to make an informed decision, and informed decision-making is a critical component of a free society, right? You're given the information. Everybody knew what the risk of COVID was, or what they told us the risk of COVID was. And at that point, we should let the entire country determine for themselves what is okay for them to do and what is not okay for them to do. What level of risk tolerance are you willing to take? What level of risk tolerance am I willing to take? And we didn't allow that to take place. Instead, the government said, you know what? We're going to tell you what you're allowed to do. We're going to tell you what you're not allowed to do. And so, but going back to Spirit, so they received all this government money. I think it hid some of the issues that Spirit Airlines was having. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, they were looking at, basically collapsing, and JetBlue comes in with an offer to purchase Spirit Airlines, and the federal government says, no, we're not going to allow you to because you're going to monopolize the market. Well, how does two companies, if you combine the two, add up to less than 10% of the total airline industry? How is that a monopoly? How is 10% a monopoly? And so they didn't allow that merger to take place, and now what do we have? We have Spirit Airlines collapsing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we're looking at a potential increase in budget fares going up.
Yeah, and Spirit was known for, keeping prices relatively cheap and affordable for those that really couldn't afford to fly United, American, right? The bigger names, better service, I'd say. So that actually impacts the lower economic people. Now they're going to have to pay more to try and get a flight to go see a relative, to maybe hop over to go Utah for a quick little getaway, right? Something that everyday folks like to do. And if you can afford to do it, would like to take advantage of doing it, that is now getting pulled from under them.
Well, the entire industry, the entire air industry is kind of jacked up to begin with, because there's a ton of subsidies for airlines to run different routes. So if there's routes in the country, I give the example of like Podunk, Arkansas to Podunk, Nebraska, right? There's not typically a flight from, middle of nowhere to middle of nowhere. And so what the government does is they come in and they say, hey, listen, we know that if you try to run a route here, it's not going to be a winning metric for you. And so we're going to subsidize you to run this route for how many times a week or whatever it is. I want you to fly from here to here. And the government comes in and says, we want you to do this, and we're going to subsidize you to do it. Well, the problem is that what happens when the subsidy runs out? What happens when the subsidy ends? And then in some cases, what if the subsidy never does end? Why do we still have bunches and bunches and bunches of corn being grown in this country and basically choking out every single other crop that's being grown in the United States because we subsidized it for the last 40 years, if not longer? And so what do we have? Now we have a situation where we are not producing enough crop other than corn in order to make sure that we have security in our food in this country.
Not to mention we're selling our farmland to
China.
Foreign governments also.
Oh, well, that too.
You know, and just think about it. Like our founding fathers, 250 years ago, they got this idea to start this new country this way, put everything on the line, right? These guys, a lot of these guys went bankrupt. Some of them got imprisoned. Their families lost everything. But they stood behind the idea to give this nation a clean slate and a clean shot. If they were to wake up today, would they recognize the country that they left?
No. And I think the problem is that people wrongfully look at the founding documents and they instantly come to this idea and this conclusion that the founding documents no longer apply. And you've heard it before, right? Like, well, they would have never written the Second Amendment if they had the kind of guns that you have today. Yes, they would have. Yes, they would have. Right? What's the entire purpose of the Second Amendment? Well, number one, to defend the First Amendment, but number two, to defend ourselves against the tyranny of a government.
Exactly.
And written in the founding documents is the ability for us to overthrow the government if they take too much power.
Correct. But be careful where you say that now.
Well, yeah, don't come knocking at my door. I'm not calling for a coup d'etat or anything, but at the end of the day, like you go back to January 6th and they call it an insurrection. I'm like, oh, you're far from that. You haven't seen an insurrection in this country. And if you continue down the road, you might see one day. I'm not going to lead the charge. Don't come after me.
There you go. Fair. Make sure you always state that. Make sure we cover all bases here. But
I also have no intention of committing suicide.
Fair. Duly noted.
Just want to make sure that's on the record.
And it's crazy we even got to talk like this day and age, but we do. It's where we are. And if you take a look at what goes on in schools now, like kids can't, less than 50% of the kids can read or write. Shit, that's probably what it was like 250 years ago in America. How many of the people were actually literate?
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know if we have a study from back then, but I will tell you, right, like the difference between the institutionalized school system in the United States right now versus back 250 years ago, it's drastically different, right? Like you go back to the founding of this country, the schoolhouse was not these paid teachers as part of a teachers union that was controlled by a local district that got its funding from the state, which got its funding from the federal government with no oversight at all. And going back to a free market economy, our school system, our school system fails because of the lack of essentially a free market economy, because they don't have to necessarily fight to be the best school. Now, it changes a little bit when you have school choice per se, right? Like when you can drive your kid to a better school, there is some incentive for the lower performing schools to up their game. But when you look at the lower economic areas, those parents don't have that option. They don't have the option to drive their kids 25, 30 minutes to school. And so we still have a failing school system because we don't have a free market economy when it comes to our education.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when you try and introduce like alternatives to education, like charter schools, or you're trying to introduce privatized schooling in certain areas, you got to go through the local school board. Like charter schools need to partner with the local school board, so you kind of got to play ball with the local district at least till you get your charter. But then the district can then pull your charter if they don't like what you're doing. So they still have some type of control over what those schools are doing.
Well, and the whole system just creates a huge element of fraud, waste, and abuse, right? Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, when you look at alternative schooling, we've seen in Colorado where essentially some of these more private schools, they're starting to get some state funds to run quote-unquote homeschool enrichment programs or whatever. They're starting to crack down on them because they're collecting millions and millions and millions of dollars. And where's that money going? Is it going back to the kids? And I just have a huge issue because ultimately at the end of the day, like we are paying $15,000 a year about in the state of Colorado for one child to go to school. That's the cost per student in this state. Give me 10 students at $150,000 and I will educate them at a far better rate and I will walk away with $150,000.
It's doable, 100%.
And they will have an excellent education. And that's what these teachers should be looking at. That's what the teachers union, who doesn't fight for the teachers, should be looking at. I don't even understand why the teachers have an issue getting a pay raise. What is your teachers union doing? I was in Chicago back like 5-6 years ago, and my aunt is a pretty centrist Democrat. She's a reasonable Democrat. She's one that you want to have a conversation with.
Okay.
I love having a conversation with her. I actually find it very, very entertaining, and it's fun to have a conversation with her.
Does the needle get moved either way when you guys talk?
We find common ground. The needle doesn't move. We find common ground.
That's better than most.
But she was a teacher in the Chicago district for a very long time, and I'm out there for Warrior Games back a long time ago, and she takes me to this barbecue with all these other teachers. And we pulled up to the barbecue, and all of the teachers in the back of their windshields, right, vote yes on whatever their school proposition
Whatever
was
props on the ballot.
to get more money for the school district, right? And they're all sitting there, and they're all complaining around this barbecue about their taxes being so high. And I looked at them, I said, you guys do know that you essentially vote for these taxes, right? And they go, well, I said, and plus, when was the last time you got a pay raise? A substantial pay raise. I go, why do you guys keep fighting for the school district to get more money when you know you're not going to see any of it? Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's how we've got to start looking at this. That's what the teachers union's got to do. They got to look at it and go, look, why do we have school districts where the administrators are so top heavy in their acquisition of funds? You know, there's a school district down in Colorado Springs School District 11. They have a huge building called the Tesla Center. Don't know if it was donated. I don't really care how they got the building. I went in there as part of this like continuing education when I was coaching swim in high school. And I asked one of the people in there, I said, hey man, what is this building for? They go, oh, this building is for teacher education. And there's like, you know, this giant stage downstairs. We like to host principal events down there. And I said, well, how many kids do you serve out of this building? No, it was more than that. It was about 11. I think they said 11.
Okay.
I said 11. They go, yeah, we have an early childhood education. So they run a preschool for 11 children, which somehow justifies this massive building. And they can't utilize any of the beautiful theaters in any of the high schools to manage principal meetings. No, they need a special building for it. Well, if you take that building and you sell it, and you're not paying the utilities on it, and you're not paying all the costs associated with that building, you could probably give every teacher in the district a couple $1,000s a year raises.
You could, but then I have to go work in a crummy office building, not a nice new build.
But
be reasonable. Be reasonable. Be reasonable.
I
No,
know.
be reasonable. Have you followed what's been going on in Cherry Creek?
No.
Superintendent resigned because of creating a hostile work culture. Okay, he gets full payout plus his retirement payout. Okay, his wife is head of HR. She is on paid admin leave, pending investigation. Assistant superintendent put on indefinite leave is now getting a $200,000 payout, $20,000 a year for the next year, payout of his contract. Okay, that's Cherry Creek School District. And they're fighting me. Me and them are going to the 10th Circuit on Tuesday to fight oral arguments as to why they fired me.
Why did they fire you?
Because in an equity training, I was asked, how do I identify? And I identified as a proud American. And the director of equity, Ron Garcia E. Ortiz, deemed my comments as having racist undertones. They then called me in 6 weeks later with the director of HR, Courtney Smith, not Brenda, but Courtney Smith, throw her name out there, with my principal, Lissa Stahl, who I'm hearing has now been forced out of district, looking to confirm that, but I heard she's now out because of what she's been caught doing and saying. But they called me into my principal's office, the director of HR, and my principal said, we're letting you go for budgetary reasons. I said, no way, this has to do with my equity training. And the HR lady said, no, if it had anything to do with your equity training, you and I would have had a conversation. And they fired me. And then that was in March of 2024. Then July of 24, their published budgetary numbers come out. There's no reduction in FTE in campus middle school. There's an actual increase in FTE. So they didn't have to reduce the budget. They fired me for what I said. So I got America First Legal as my law group, and we filed suit against them in September of 24. And guess what when we alleged everything what I just told you happened, Creek admitted to it. They actually admitted to it in the paperwork that in order to further diversity, equity, and inclusion, it outweighed plaintiff's protective speech. And basically anything that comes out of my mouth, regardless if I'm asked how I identify, whatever comes out of my mouth needs to be district approved. And because it wasn't district approved, me identifying as a proud American, they had a right to terminate me. Magistrate Judge Scott T. Valholic and then federal judge Regina Rodriguez both agreed with the district on this. So they both admit, and the district admitted that they lied to why they fired me as well in the paperwork. They never disputed it, that they fired me under false pretext. 2 federal judges have said, yes, the school district can still do this out here in Colorado. We've been waiting for 5 months. We are finally on the board for Tuesday, May 12th, courtroom 4. We have our panel. I just saw my panel. Not thrilled, but it's better than what I originally thought we were getting. But now we're going to oral arguments at the 10th Circuit to see whether or not I could actually go sue them for what they did to me. Have you ever heard someone alleging what has just been alleged in a lawsuit, and then the people you're suing say, yes, all that's true, and you can't actually get into a court?
That's absolutely nuts.
Put my name into Google whenever you want, Patrick Hogarty. You could read the press release from AFL. You could read the legal documents that are out there, dude. It's insane. There's been no local media coverage about this whatsoever. Channel 9, Channel 7, CBS, Fox 31, you name it. No one has picked this story up. I know they have received this story in their inboxes from people. There's been no local media reporting about this whatsoever. So Creek has been allowed to just fly under the radar. The only thing that gets out there are the clips I make, and I get views on Joe's page that actually spread the word about this.
I'm going to share this interview right now, this portion right here.
Do it. It's all true. Tell people, Google my name, put it in there. Cherry Creek admits to it in the paperwork. You read their brief from I believe October of 24, whenever they responded, November of 24, whenever they responded. Yes, sir. It's all written in there.
I left, I was coaching high school, and when I left / got told to quit because I was too hard on my swimmers, and I had too many expectations for them. And no joke, that's exactly what they told me. Your expectations are too high.
You had standards.
Yeah, I have standards. You have to show up to my practice in order to swim at a meet.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be gone for 2 weeks and then want to be on the relay team. It doesn't work. Anyway, so I was told to quit or get fired. Those were my 2 options. Should have let them fire me. I think that would have been more fun. But I said at that point, I said, I'm never going back into the public school system ever again. You couldn't pay me enough to work in the public school system ever again.
I agree. They did that to me. Ended my career. I applied to about 40 jobs in education. And mind you, I have 17 years in education. I was a teacher for 9 years back in New York, social studies high school. I was 3 years social studies middle school out here at Edna and John Mosley in Aurora Public School. Then I was a 3-year dean at Hinckley High School in Aurora Public Schools. Then I was a 3-year dean at Campus Middle School in Cherry Creek School District. I did not get one interview out of applying to 40 different jobs in Creek, APS, Denver, Jeffco, Dougco. I hit the gamut. Did not get one. I got blackballed.
You should call them. You should subpoena them to testify.
I can't even get into court yet. We're arguing to get into court.
Well, when you do get into court, subpoena them to testify and ask them why they didn't give you an interview.
I will. Well, I got the whole thing documented. Every application I sent, every nonsense I had to fill out. I had to write all these personal statements for all these different schools because that's how they screen you. I had to do all this stuff, and I couldn't get an interview. 17 years in education, 6 years in a leadership position, bachelor's plus 2 master's degrees. I'm more than qualified. I could not get anywhere, and that's how I wound up working for Joe, because I saw a job posting on Red Balloon for content creator / podcast intern, $15 an hour, and I said I got to start somewhere. And Joe took me on, no experience, but talk to the people, man. I think we've been crushing it with the content.
I mean, I'm happy you're here.
Me too. I'm very happy I'm here. But it happened to me. And America, I feel like, have become openly racist to white people. And it's okay. And the federal judge, ready for this? The federal judge actually gave them the dismissal with prejudice. She didn't even allow us to go back to change our complaint for anything. She said, "Pop, get out." And she's a first generation. Our parents were both, I've done some research on her, first generation. Just coming in, smack, nope, can't, nope, you have no right to stand here. No right to say anything. Yes, sir. It's infuriating, buddy. It has burned me alive. Every day I think about it because I've been wronged, and I know I've been wronged. Everyone that I talk to, even Democrats that I talk to, my wife's friends, Some other friends that are acquaintances, like everyone that I know of that knows the stories, like, you can't do that. And I said, yes, you can, because these courts are corrupt out here. I can't get in. And we have the nuts. I'm telling you, we have the nuts. Dude, I got... They filled out paperwork where they lied about what I said with the EEOC. They actually lied. They said I said I'm a proud white American. No, I didn't. And they know I didn't say that. But they wrote it. I can't get into court still. I got them by the balls, and they know it.
So your hearing is on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be praying for you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a 2-1 panel, Democrat to Republican. I got the judges' names. It's a 2-1 panel. I'm hoping 1 out of the 2 see this for what it's worth, because it's blatantly obvious. And I'm just gonna piggyback off this. Hey, Damon, let's play cut 2, because check out this video.
Imagine the reaction to White History Month. Imagine the headlines over an all-white scholarship. Imagine the outrage over white entertainment television. Imagine the backlash if white-owned businesses were openly promoted just because they were white-owned. You already know what would happen. Media outrage, cancel culture, but swap the words and suddenly it's different. Then it's called empowerment. Then it's called representation. Everybody gets told to be proud of who they are. But the minute a white person says, I'm proud to be white in America, it's not taken as pride. It's racism. Instantly, no questions asked. You are expected to feel guilty for a skin color you did not choose. Judged for how you were born. Blamed for history you did not live. Told your identity is the only one that must come with shame attached. Think about how absurd that is.
Saw that video today. I am everything in that video except saying I'm a white American. I am an American, but I am viewed as being a white American, therefore I am a racist, is how it is viewed in the lens through Cherry Creek.
I mean, the whole idea that we're going to continue to perpetuate this idea that skin color matters is the big issue, right? And if you want racism to end in this country, which, by the way, I don't think that it's very prolific in this country anymore, but if you want it to end, stop talking about it. Stop talking about the color of somebody's skin. Nobody actually cares. Nobody in the real world actually cares.
I think now more people are caring, though. And I think it's the other way around. I think this has unleashed hatred towards white people for shit they've never done.
Well, 100%. This whole idea of like reparations, it's crazy. Now, I will tell you this. The smallest minority group in the world is redheads. So I'm here to fight for redheads to be recognized as the world's smallest minority group.
Free the gingers?
I think that they should have free college. I think that they should have free health care, free education. We need to make sure that we pay back the redheads for all the abuse that they have suffered for so long. Because you know what, redheads, I'm looking at you and I know you have a soul.
There you go. You heard it here first. Right? But like this type of mentality is preached in the school system as it's anti-white. Like they literally teach through equity the hatred of white people. And you standing up and saying you love this country, how can that be something that is harmful to be around kids?
Well, we've hidden the agenda, right? Like the whole idea of check your privilege at the door, right? Remember, like white privilege was entering the school system, critical race theory and all this other stuff. And then people got upset and went to the school boards and said, you need to get rid of critical race theory and you need to get rid of this. Well, they got rid of the name, but then they integrated the content into every last bit of the textbooks to where now you don't even know that it's there unless you're really skimming it looking for it.
Have you ever heard of affinity groups?
Yeah.
Do you know that they're in the public schools
In what way?
for kids? Cherry Creek has affinity groups for students.
Interesting.
You know, Aurora Public School, same thing. DPS, same thing. They have affinity groups. Now, for people that don't know, affinity groups are groups for kids based on their race. They're segregated into groups based on their race, and then they label it as leadership, but they don't teach anything in those groups. It becomes an echo chamber of racism. And I'll tell you one quick story.
Do they have their own water fountains?
Not yet.
Okay. I just want to know
not
how
yet.
far back we're going to go, whether or not we're going to like completely reverse all the civil rights or...
I hear you, man. Let me tell you this one though. In an equity, in one of these affinity groups, this is so crazy. I'm gonna tell this story. There was a fight that happened in an affinity group because one kid was not black enough for the group because he had a mixed parent. He had mixed parents. Both his parents weren't black. Only one of them was. So there was an altercation in an affinity group. And then that led to another affinity group being established known as the multiracial group. So we had the multiracial group, we had the black affinity group, we had the Latinx affinity group, not Latino, Latinx, and then we had the trans leadership group. You're looking at me like you're ready to rip my head off, but I'm not.
I'm not ready to rip your head off.
I'm not making this up, man.
And I believe it. I mean, I 100% believe it. And, you know, like, it's so hard, right? Because once again, we go back to the very beginning of this conversation on the Constitution.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And as a part of the Constitution, we have the right to assemble. We have the right to be a part of a group. We have the right to associate with a group. And then we also have the right to freedom of religion. And so much of what's going on in this country is this like battle for where the line is drawn between where my rights stop and where your rights begin. Like ultimately that's what it all boils down to is where does my right to my religious beliefs end? So your right to be a fairy pony princess, you know, kid loving, whatever the hell you are, begin. And we're seeing this over and over and over again. And it goes back to like, is it okay that you want to have a group with all African Americans? I mean, from the point of the Constitution, yeah, go for it. Does it make it right? Probably not. Just because something's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it right. Is it okay to have the Hispanics or Latinos come together? Is it okay to have the LGBTQ community come together for their own club? Yeah, I mean, I believe that they should be able to have that right to have that club. And we go back to some of the critical Supreme Court rulings and a student's right to their freedom of speech, a student's constitutional right does not end at the schoolhouse gate. The other day I was walking by a school and it says students that park their car in this parking lot, we can search your car at any time for any reason. And somebody's got to look at the school district and go, no, you can't. Just because I park my car on your property as a student, that's a federally funded / publicly funded school. You have no right to infringe on my constitutional right to due process by searching my car, by searching my locker, by searching my backpack. No, you don't have that right. And students and parents need to look at the schools and go, you don't have the right to infringe on my kid's belief. And we had all of these arguments. I remember the one argument, Pine Creek High School, D20 down in Colorado Springs. There was an argument over a Bible study club. And it made it all the way, I don't know if it made it to the Colorado Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court. But the students ended up winning, right? They were allowed to have their Bible study club. And it goes back to the idea of, so we want to protect our right to our religion, But then can we look at other students and go, well, no, you can't have that club. Because if I want to maintain my ability to have my club, I have to also respect your ability to have your club. It doesn't mean that affinity groups are wise.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that affinity groups should exist. I don't believe that they should. I think we're going backwards in the civil rights space. But at the same time, you look at this attack on Muslims wanting to open up mosques across the country. And we're playing a very scary card, because if we want to try to prohibit the Muslims from building their mosque, we're essentially giving up our rights to say, we want you to leave our churches alone. Now, I'm not talking about Sharia law. I don't believe any religious group has the ability to enact any sort of lawfare in this country. I don't think that the Constitution gives any specific group the ability to, essentially be the judge, jury, and executioner of your own people. That doesn't exist in this country. But in terms of them wanting to build a mosque, this is a very dangerous situation that we have when we have so many Americans going, we want to somehow stop you from building this mosque. We want to stop the Mormons from putting up this temple. We want to stop whatever religious group from building their own building, because at some point that's going to be turned on us Christians, and they're going to go, hey, listen, we don't want you putting up this mega church.
Well, they already started with the churches. They closed us down during COVID. Like, the war on the church has been going on for a long time now.
The problem, the churches should have never closed, but the problem
Agreed.
is we have pastors without any cojones. And so they sat there and they rolled over and they went, but the government told us we can't.
Yeah.
I left my church in the middle of COVID. I tell this story all the time. I left my church in the middle of COVID, and the pastor at the time said, hey, can you meet me for lunch? So I met him for lunch at this Mexican place, sat across from the table, and he goes, Jason, why are you leaving? And I said, well, listen, I said, it's really simple. I said, when Christianity becomes illegal in this country, I want to know that the people that I'm going to church with are going to sit in jail with me. And he looked at me and he said, I'll sit in jail with you. I said, no, you won't. I said, no, you won't. I said, everything that you've done in the last, not only COVID, but the last 2 years preceding that, proves that to me. You shut down your church. You obeyed the 6-foot rules. You wanted to prohibit, people from spreading around petitions. That was at that time, it was for Prop 115, the late-term abortion law that we got to the ballot that failed. He didn't want that to be passed around because we don't want to offend anybody in the congregation. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if you are a pastor that's afraid of offending somebody in your congregation because you're standing by the truth, you should probably leave the pulpit and never come back. And if you're a pastor today that still believes it was okay to shut down your church during COVID, you should leave the pulpit. Now, if you're a pastor that says, you know what, I shut down my church, but if this were to happen again, I wouldn't do it, good on you. Stay at that pulpit. Make sure that you learn that lesson. But these pastors that decided they were going to obey the government, not a chance. Go leave.
250 years ago, you think pastors would have shut down their church if the government said close it down?
Not a chance. The politicians that ordered the churches to be shut down would be black tarred and feathered, walk down the streets, and then probably shot with a muzzle loader.
Yeah. But over 250 years, we have been conditioned to kind of just keep giving a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Okay. I going back to free market economy. The reason why we struggle with free market economy in this country is in part because we lack an element of corporate responsibility. So to have a free market, I believe that you have to have a high level of corporate responsibility, which means this: if you produce a product and you know that your product is hurting people, you pull it off the shelves before more people get hurt. But that's not what happens in this country. That's not what happens with these corporations. They put out this product, right? In fact, Purdue Pharma just settled. Colorado's getting like $470 something million from Purdue Pharma for the opioid epidemic. But Purdue Pharma is a very perfect example. they know that their product, that they've mislabeled their product, that they've told people it's not addicting, that they've continued to push it out to every single American, that they essentially created their own ideas of how to diagnose, whatever mystery illness they wanted to pretend that there was, and then claim that if the drug stops working, you just give them more OxyContin, and you give them more OxyContin, you give them more OxyContin, to the point where now we're prescribing 10, 20, 30 milligrams of OxyContin multiple times a day. And now we have an opioid epidemic. So in a free market, for a free market to work effectively, you have to have a level of corporate responsibility where the corporation says, you know what, I'm going to pull my product from the shelf before it hurts any more people. But that's not what happens in this country. Corporations, they hurt people, or they do things that are wrong. And the people, because they believe we have more of a democracy than a constitutional republic, they look at it and they go, government, what are you going to do to step in and help my problem? Mm-hmm. And so the people write their legislators and they go, this company hurt me and we need to make sure this never happens again. And so we need you to enact a law to prohibit this company from ever doing this again. And what do we have? We have more and more laws, rules, and regulations, and now bureaucracy, because now we have departments that oversee these industries. And now we're paying more and more tax dollars to the departments that oversee the industry, all because we lack corporate responsibility. And right now, the technology companies have a perfect opportunity to get ahead of the government, right? They have the perfect opportunity to enact corporate responsibility and say, look, we know that technology is growing at an extremely high rate. We know that we're requiring more and more data centers. And instead of these corporations going, okay, we're going to figure out how to regulate our own industry ourselves, they're sitting back and waiting for the government to figure it out. Well, I can promise you that the government is not going to figure it out as well as the individual organizations in the industry can figure it out. And so we need this to go back to the organizations, to take a level of corporate responsibility and to solve some of these regulation issues before there's a need for the government to step in and regulate it. And we haven't seen that in this country in centuries.
Well, social media deplatforms and censors people when they want. They don't have actually straight guidelines. Well, they have some guidelines on why they take you down these days, don't they?
But that was because the government stepped in.
No, yeah, that is true. But their problem took place. They started the problem by deplatforming for real, no just cause. Government came in. Now you got the regulations that got rolled out.
So social media is very interesting because social media, essentially the big constitutional argument is that places like Facebook created a public square. So your First Amendment constitutional right to freedom of speech applies in a public square. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't apply in a private entity per se.
Correct.
And so the argument becomes, does a place like Reddit or these threads, you remember the old threads? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or Facebook or social media, did they create a public square to where now everybody has a First Amendment right and a First Amendment protection? And then you get even more interesting with the technology companies because, when it comes to election fraud or election interference, what companies like Google did in order to promote the candidates that they wanted, where they essentially used search engines to push down the candidates that weren't as favorable to them further down the list on the search results. Does that fall in line with Google's ability as a private entity to determine how their organization functions, or did they cross the line into election interference and into a quote-unquote style of election fraud? So it's very interesting because we don't have this overwhelmingly free market. We've also created this idea that we essentially pick winners and losers, and we allow certain organizations to do something that we don't allow other organizations to do. And then when you get into the bureaucracy, especially in local towns, there's this whole idea of variances, right? So, if you're friends with the right people, you might be able to put a restaurant in this one plot of land that's zoned for residential, but the right people, so they might allow you to rezone it. But somebody that they don't like wants to put a restaurant there, they're going to deny that request to rezone. And it happens all over the place. Even going down to like the county health departments, right? How much amount of corruption exists in some of our county health departments? Because now you have an organization that without due process, has the ability to shut down a business. They can come into your restaurant and they can say, you know what? We don't believe that your restaurant is safe anymore, and they can shut you down.
Just tag in, bag you.
Without due process. And that's the problem with this bureaucracy is that it eliminates the due process of individuals, it eliminates the due process of organizations and of corporations and of small businesses in order to fight their case and keep their business open.
America 2026, huh?
America 2026.
And then take a look at what's going on at the UK in 2026 and let me know how far behind are we.
Oh, we're not far behind them, but they're radical as all get out.
A3, roll it.
Well, what did it need to come to?
Tell us why you escalated it to this level, because I don't understand. I posted something that he posted, you come to arrest me, you don't arrest him. Why has it come to this? Why am I in cuffs? Because there's something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety based upon your...
I have the bottom button.
That's
not his.
why you've been arrested.
Does it not look like it?
Right there, this guy in England is getting arrested, and the cop told him right there, because someone has been caused anxiety based upon your social media post. That's why you've been arrested.
Yeah, that's one of about 100 instances I've seen in Great Britain and across the UK of people getting arrested for their social media posts.
How far behind are we from that happening here?
There will be an insurrection if we ever get to that point.
I think it's happening already. I believe I've seen in America there's been some people arrested for some online posts over the past couple of months.
I don't know as though it's mainstream enough, like it is in Europe,
but
that the average American goes, yeah, this isn't right.
And I've seen videos of sheriffs and officers showing up at people's homes in America, asking them about, hey, did you post this?
Really?
Yeah, man. Happened in Texas. I'll get you some clips. It's going on. And yeah. And then you have the California gubernatorial debate. You see these three clowns that are running? Well, two clowns and Spencer Pratt, who might actually have a shot?
No.
Okay. So let's play cut 4, Damon. Let's take a look at what's going on in California.
This is a yes or no question and answer. So there's an LA council member. He wants voters to decide. He is saying that non-citizens, should they be allowed to vote in local elections? Is this a yes or no, Mr. Pratt?
No.
Mayor Bass?
It depends. It's not a yes or no.
Depends on what?
Well, first of all, when you say non-citizens, it doesn't mean they're here illegal. It doesn't mean they're undocumented. They could have green cards. They could be here perfectly legal. And there's a lot of states and cities that do that on very, very local elections. We have to see what the councilman is proposing.
Councilmember Bremen.
Yeah, I would say, again, it does depend. In other places, school boards have non-citizens.
Yes or no?
Non-citizens who vote
Mr. Pratt, I have a question for you. You told NBC News.
So simple yes or no. Should should non-citizens be able to vote in elections?
Well, what I think is no.
Thank you.
I was going to go off on a tangent.
Right? It's
just for
simple,
fun, because they were doing it, so I wanted to.
Yeah, but because they can't simply just say what they need to say there, which is yes, because that's what they want. And I've researched stuff for Joe in the show all the time, and I've seen way too many of these clips with all these Democratic politicians coming up on the next election cycle talking about this topic, and they want illegal immigrants to have the right to vote, and they're going to work on that when they get into office. So the next wave of moving the immigration needle is coming, which is amnesty, open borders, and giving illegals the right to vote. There's no one on that side that's saying not to. Have you heard any Democrats saying we don't want to do this?
Not in 2026.
Exactly. So this is what's coming. This is boop, 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 boop. So do we have a republic? No. They're busting the republic up into these little pockets, and they train these people to believe that democracy rules, and then they act like democracy rules, like mob rule. Tell me you don't feel like we live at the gunpoint of the mob most days.
Oh, we do.
So do we live in a democracy then? I think we do, to be honest with you, for the most part.
I think I'm a little more optimistic than that.
Talk to me.
I
need some hopium. I need hopium.
You need hopium. I think that we're not at the point where the mob is going to overwhelmingly rule, but I don't think we're far away from it. I don't think we're far away from the idea of a democracy where majority rules.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the whole idea of, especially municipal voting, is very, very interesting just in general. You have... Let me give you this example, and this is a little off topic of immigration, but you have a portion of El Paso County that has a ton of rental homes, and the people that live there rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're not paying the property taxes.
Correct.
But when a ballot measure comes through to increase the property tax in that area, who gets to vote on that property tax increase?
You tell me.
The renters.
Okay.
The renters get to pay for get to vote for their property tax.
So the ballot gets addressed to them?
The ballot, well, it's on the regular ballot. It's on the coordinated election ballot, or it's on this, whatever it is, election. It doesn't go to the homeowner. It goes to whoever resides there. Well, shouldn't the person determining whether or not their property tax goes up go to who owns the property?
Yeah.
Not just who resides there? And that's the kind of the issue that we have all together, right? Even going back down to the school board, like the school district impacts property values quite substantially. Who gets to vote? Do both get to vote, the renter and the homeowner or the landowner?
Speaking of voting in school boards, I recently found this out.
You should run for school board.
Oh, buddy, don't let my wife hear that. Because I live in Cherry Creek.
That's what I'm telling you, you should.
And here's the other best part.
Be the biggest FU to that district.
Here's the other best part. The person that represents my area just resigned because he got caught being a racist. But the district won't release what he said to the public to protect the parties involved.
Can we talk about that? What is being a racist?
I know what a racist is. Do you know what a racist is?
Not anymore.
Okay. Oh, fair. Okay. Fair. Okay. Treating someone differently based on their race. Actually, not treating someone differently because everyone wants to be treated differently based on their race. So you have to treat someone poorly.
But they didn't used to want to be treated differently based on their race.
Correct. But now everyone does.
I treat everybody by the content of their character.
I agree. No bullshit. I got no time to play games. What you give me is what I give you. How you come to me is how I come to you. How I come to you is how I expect you to come to me. I don't care what color you are. Dude, I grew up in an all-black neighborhood. Like, this is the other thing, like with the equity shit. I grew up in an all-black neighborhood in Queens, New York. Ronnie Garcia E. Ortiz. I will give you $10,000 if you could go to Rosedale, Queens, and live there for 30 days. Because I guarantee you can't. You would lose your freaking mind, you chump. Okay, I was the only white kid, got along with everybody, had black friends, had Spanish friends, got along with everybody. It's crazy, dude, but I'm deemed a racist because I love this country. How? I was the token white kid, PS 38 Queens, off of Merrick Boulevard, Rosedale, New York. Grew up on the service road of the Belt Parkway, literally on the service road of the Belt Parkway.
Did you play basketball?
No, I was more of I played baseball. I was a baseball player growing up.
Of course, you're white. Come on.
That's my bad. I played baseball. I can still shoot a little bit. I got a little touch. I've worked on my game a little bit over the years.
You're tall enough.
Yeah, I am. I never got into it. I've stayed baseball. Should have done more. But yeah, man. But yeah, content of yours. What do you mean content of your character? You crazy? You crazy? And that's the other thing with diversity, right? They talk about diversity. We want diversity, right? So let's have X amount of black people here, X amount of brown people here, right? But my question is, what does that actually reflect? Because when you bring that to the table, right, if you're talking about making a decision and you want to make sure you have black and brown people at the table, not just white people, but you bring black and brown people in, are you signaling then that all black and brown people think the same? And you're signaling all white people think the same? Are you putting everyone in a box that way when you say, hey, we need diversity at the table? But you could bring a black conservative in and you could bring a black liberal in. Are they going to have the same beliefs?
I think that we all believe that the people that we hang around on a usual basis believe like their beliefs are similar to everybody else. And I grew up in a Christian household, went to Lutheran school, not in Queens, New York, in Orange County, California. We lived a much different life. But I grew up thinking up until like 7th, 8th grade that everybody must be a Christian, right? Like you have that idea, you grow up, you're like, everybody must be a Christian. Everybody knows a Christian. Everybody's a Christian, right? People, you hear the teacher talking about discipleship and you're like, why? Everybody's a Christian. We don't need to disciple anybody. Everybody's a Christian. And we do the same thing as we get older too, right? And as a campaign manager and worked with several campaigns, you kind of have this like sounding box of people that are around you that all think the same. And we oftentimes have candidates that get this idea that because everybody around them is telling them that their messaging is good, that it's somehow going to relate to the rest of society, and it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we continue to do. Same with, you brought it up earlier when you were talking about the affinity groups in the high schools, that essentially it's just like an echo chamber. That's exactly what it is. It's an echo chamber. And then you miss the fact that, people outside of that echo chamber might not agree with you.
Yeah.
And then we have an issue in this country because we love confirmation bias.
True.
Just in general in our everyday thinking, like we trained out of students critical thinking, and when you take out critical thinking from students, you end up with a ton of confirmation bias.
True.
Where you have all these students that go, well, I'm only going to look at the sources. I'm going to cherry pick my sources for things that agree with me. Speaking of cherry picking, when I was in my master's program, I had a youth development in the context of a global and diverse society class. Now, we were asked to write a paper. I wrote my paper on tolerance, the original meaning of tolerance, the idea of tolerance. And in class, the professor accused me of cherry picking my resources because he didn't like what I said. But the whole idea of tolerance is that we can disagree, I just can't kill you for it.
Correct.
That's literally the base definition of tolerance.
And then it's the same thing, kind of with this free speech, right? I will defend to the dying death. I may disagree with you, but I'll defend to the dying death your right to say whatever it is you want to say.
Well, thank you.
Like, that's what America's supposed to be. We're not supposed to cancel each other out. We're not supposed to kill each other over it, right? It's supposed to be ugly. Free speech is supposed to be ugly, right? Things are going to be said that are going to be offensive.
Well, that's why I look at like the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, right? Like I look at the Jimmy Kimmel stuff and everything. They cancel Jimmy Kimmel. Like, whatever you decide to do now, whatever it is, you set a precedent that exists for the rest of eternity.
But I feel that most of the people believe the precedent has already been set, and now we just want to follow it up.
But then you end up in a democracy, not a constitutional republic.
So then do we wait to see what happens on round 2 from them?
Did we wait to go fight Roe versus Wade just because it was precedent?
No, it took 40 years, 50 years to get it.
Took 40 years, 50 years.
To get it reheard.
But they continued to fight to rehear Roe versus Wade over and over and over and over again. So why are we as a country going, well, you set this precedent, so now we want you to follow your previous precedent, instead of looking at it and go, we understand you set a precedent that was wrong. I'm not going to ask you to carry over your precedent over here and fire Jimmy Kimmel. What I'm going to ask you to do is say, hey, this precedent is wrong. I want you to admit this precedent is wrong, because you're not going to fire Jimmy Kimmel, which means the precedent that you have set is not actually a precedent anymore. So why are we giving in to majority mob rule and essentially breaking open our constitutional rights in various capacities, instead of going back and going, look, we understand that you did this before and you thought it was right, but it wasn't right, it was wrong. And that's why I'm not going to ask you to do this.
Well, there has to be some ownership that whatever was done was wrong by the side that did it, which never happens. And then needs to be accountability and contrition, right? You can't forgive, you can't forget, you can't move on until one side says, yeah, I was wrong here, I shouldn't have done it, and I'm sorry. And no one does that in politics. Because that's a sign of weakness, even though, believe it or not, that's a sign of strength. Showing that you're wrong.
I understand that that's our precedent. Going back to precedent, not the precedent, but the precedent that we have. but is that the right move? You see, I'm a more of a libertarian through and through. Really, I just consider myself a constitutionalist. And the ideas of the Constitution are never to be eroded. And it doesn't matter. You can't erode the Constitution, not even one bit. And if we, quote unquote, set a precedent that breaks an element of our constitutional rights or God-given rights, I'm not going to sit there and go, I want you to now carry that precedent over to my case. I just want you to go, that precedent was set wrongly and we need to stop following that precedent. But instead, we want this tit for tat battle where, you know, we go, well, you did it, now I want to do it, now you didn't do it. It's whatever, right? Ron Paul, blowback, the whole idea of blowback. And that's where we're at politically, is we have blowback in this country politically that gets us further and further away from the Constitution because such and such party did this, so now we're going to do this. Regardless of who's in power, the president, the governor, does not have the right to rule by executive order. I don't care if Obama did it. I don't want Trump doing it.
Right.
We have a legislature for a reason. You want to pass a law, go through the legislature. I don't care if Obama did it because Bush did it. I don't care if Bush did it because Clinton did it. I don't care if Clinton did it because the previous Bush did it. I don't care about the precedent that's been set. I care that the precedent that's been set goes against the very foundation of this country. And the further we allow this to take place, the further we become a democracy, the further we get away from the Constitution, and we have to stop playing tit for tat. We have to go over the fact that it's time to end it somewhere. And it needs to end with us. It needs to end right now.
All fair points. All fair points. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying right now. I also know what I've seen and how the reality of the political power gets wielded in this country. And if you don't wield it when you have it, you're getting stabbed 4 years later. And that's what I see happening, is that outside, all right, we'll respect the Constitution. We're going to respect the Constitution. We're not going to overreach. We're not going to go after DEI. We're not going to go after CRT. We're not going to go after all these other illegal practices that you have put into place that violate Constitution. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Fine. But the moment we're out and they're in, those things become codified into federal law. And they'll use the Constitution and say, boom, and then they'll rubber stamp it and be like, yeah, we just did it to you.
It still doesn't make it right, and it still doesn't make it constitutional.
I know,
right?
but we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer at the back end of it.
But look at the problem we have. Trump's coming up on, you know, the middle of his second term.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, Trump has all of the houses on his side. Once again, the Republicans can't get crap done.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gotten anything done.
Yep.
And it's like America's okay with it.
We're not.
No,
they just don't
we're
care.
not.
The people representing us don't give a shit. It's the uniparty galore up there. They don't care.
But ultimately,
they have their pension locked in after they're done. They don't care anymore. They got their benefits. They have their speaking engagements after. They sell us out at every turn.
100% they do. But when are we going to tar and feather them and drag them through the streets?
That's the thing. We won't do that here in America either, because the message has been sent to J6ers on our side that if you even walk within 100 feet of somewhere I don't want you, I'm going to throw you in jail and I'm going to keep you in there indefinitely. You know, like they play all these games. It's psychological warfare, man. It sucks. But like, this is how I see it playing out. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm completely wrong with everything I'm saying and how I feel about the direction of this country and what's going to come from it. But if we don't start cleaning house of the judiciary, getting corrupt judges out, what's the Judiciary Commission doing on the federal level to get rid of corrupt federal judges or judges that actually don't respect the Constitution whatsoever? They're not doing anything. But what's going to happen in 3 years if they control the House, the Senate, and they control the presidency? You're telling me they're not going to run a purge of conservative justices? They'll do it 100%.
They will. At some point, they're going to stack the Supreme Court. At some point.
Right.
When you go back to the very beginning of the show where it opened up with a quote that said it's a republic if you can keep it. Okay. we are at that point. Right now, we're at that point in 2026 where we are at the point of if you can keep it. If you can keep it is where we're at in 2026.
How do we get it back on the rails?
You tar and feather people and drag them through the street. We bring back public hangings. You know, like
in opinions, preference that in opinions. There you go. There you go.
You utilize the part of our founding documents that says you can overthrow the government, in my opinion.
Yes.
But not actually. But I'm not gonna lead the charge. Don't come follow me. I'm not gonna commit suicide. And yes. Anyways, I have a mean guard dog, so don't try to kill me. It's like this big, but he might bite your ankle. Getting off track there.
No, you're good, but this is kind of how I feel like a majority of Americans feel. Everyone feels the pressure. Everyone knows what's going on isn't correct, but there's no way to rectify it. Because if you try to rectify it through the courts, you don't get anywhere. You try and rectify it through elections, but somehow people that we want typically don't get into power. This state itself, let's talk Colorado politics.
This is where you need the mob to go in and go, no, we're going back to our founding principles. Which is the only time that I'm totally for, mob rule. Let's go for it.
We need to get back to our original documents. We really do.
The whole idea of the far left is that, and this is, if you're listening to this, let me just tell you what the far left thinks. The far left thinks you are too stupid to govern yourself. And the far right believes that you are so smart and that you understand your own position in life that you don't need anybody other than God to tell you how to live your life. That is the two differences. That's the difference between the far left, that's the difference between socialism, and the difference between the far right. Is that one side is saying you're too stupid and the other side is saying we think that you can make decisions in the best interest of your own life for yourself however you want.
Yeah, that ties real well into the start of that video we played at the beginning with the spectrum. It's all true. And like they say, they never define Nazism and fascism, right, as what it actually is, which is authoritarianism. They use that as a term of driving away nationalists, right? Just a different verbiage, not actually how the government rules. What do you think's going on in Colorado politics right now? How you feel what's going on at the state house, state legislature, Republican GOP? All right, before you go there, I'll let you get your thoughts. Damon, let's play B1.
Imagine if groups from both sides of the political aisle overwhelmingly came together for a constitutional reform to increase government transparency in the state of Colorado, and they were shot down. These groups included the Independence Institute, the ACLU, Heidi Ganahl's Rocky Mountain Voice. Heidi Ganahl was the previous Republican governor candidate for Colorado, League of Women Voters, Colorado Press Association. All of them came together who don't typically get along because they thought this was important. So this particular reform was based on what other states have called the right to know. And it was simple, a fundamental right for the people to access public records and deliberations with reasonable exception. Well, the title board, made up of 3 individuals from the Colorado Attorney General's office, the Colorado Secretary of State's office, and then the Office of Legislative Legal Services, they designate people, voted no on this. Their argument was that the right to know the affairs of government isn't a single subject, and only single subjects may go to the ballot. However, there are plenty of other constitutional protections we have in the Colorado State Constitution that are more vague as well, as constitutional amendments typically are. But they shot this down, which is quite interesting when you have the citizens who have the rights to bring constitutional amendments to the voters was shut down when it came to government transparency. Makes you wonder why. Could they have something to hide?
Have you seen that video?
I haven't, but single subject my ass. Right? Like
go.
So to put a ballot measure forward, it's supposed to be a single subject. They have, over time, set a precedent that if the title board appreciates the piece of legislation trying to be enacted, that you can break the single subject rule. And Prop 131, ranked choice voting, which I fought against, I was lead opposition for Prop 131, there was 2 issues in that. They wanted to reform the general election, and they wanted to reform the primary election. So single subject, I don't think so. I also have been sitting through finance committee hearing after finance committee hearing after finance committee hearing up at the House, and there are several bills where they have just put a ton of subjects into one bill and said, well, it's single subject because it all has to do with taxes.
So why isn't this? Well, why do you think this is going on?
Well, I think that somebody is making a lot of money from somebody, or somebody has the belief that their spot in the legislature is secure if they vote some way or another, because lobbying has a very powerful influence in this country. But you look at some of the bills that were bipartisan that didn't get through. Some of them were really good that got shot down by Republicans.
Yeah, uniparty.
And you look at like Ken DeGraff's bill, basically protecting the Fourth Amendment, saying that the government cannot just go buy internet data in order to build their case, that they have to get a warrant for their data. And he had bipartisan support, kind of, until it was shot down. So, there are times where the Democrats are reasonable up at the House. It's few and far between. But the uniparty Republicans, I did this interview with Mark Waller back when I was running for office in 24, and he looked at me and he said something along the lines, we got in a heated argument, which is not rare for me and Mark Waller. Mark Waller yelled at me during a county commissioner meeting. I think I still hold the record at the longest time at the well for public opinion time.
There you go.
Across 10 minutes. Somebody, I guess, was escorted out at 8 minutes the other day from El Paso County, and I thought, yeah, still have the record. It's an unofficial record. There might have been somebody before me that had more time, but it's the record that I'm currently counting as the official record. But anyways, side point. So he asked me, what are you going to do to work diplomatically with the other side? And I looked at him, I said, why are we asking these questions? The Democrats have essentially a supermajority in the House and the Senate in Colorado. They don't need our support.
Nope.
The Democrats don't need bipartisan support.
No, they can ram through whatever they want. And speaking of that, did you see what they passed through after they got slapped down at the Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago?
No, what did they pass through this time?
Cut two, Damon. Colorado Senate Judiciary just passed a bill which allows counselors to be sued for not affirming their clients' gender identity delusions. So what, 3-4 weeks ago, the Supreme Court said, Colorado, 8-1, no way, your law in the books that you have to do gender affirming care for your clients is unconstitutional. Well, I believe within 48 hours.
Senators, Carson.
No.
Doherty.
Yes.
Hendrickson. Aye. Wallace.
Aye.
Samore Wilson.
No.
Roberts.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay, the vote is 5-2 to the committee of the whole. Thank you, sponsors.
Proud to say Linda Zamora Wilson is one of my candidates. So good job, Linda.
But yeah, now they just switched the wording around.
So Jason Graves is a friend of mine. He now does no longer live in this state after the state removed his license to be able to provide counseling in this state. He was a huge activist across the country fighting for the ability for counselors and therapists to work through in talk therapy. We're not talking about like some of the crazy examples that the Democrats love to give when they talk about conversion therapy. We're talking about talk therapy. What we're doing right now is talk therapy. It's therapeutic for me. I don't know if it's therapeutic for you.
Oh, it works.
If Joe allowed me to smoke a cigar in here, it would be more therapeutic for me, but that's beside the point. So Jason Graves was run out of Colorado. They actually removed his license because of no other reason than the fact that he was a national spokesperson for what they want to call conversion therapy, which is helping people that come to him willingly, saying, I want help overcoming my same-sex attraction. He's a great man. I recorded a multiple-part interview with him on my channel, Spiritual Insurgency. But like when this passed, I called him, and I was so excited that the Supreme Court, not this passed, when the Supreme Court said, yeah, you can't do that, because once again, this goes back to the idea that we as individuals know what's best for us, and if somebody is seeking help for something that they're not happy with, we should allow them to do that.
And it goes into this whole gender-affirming care. It's literally the only mental health disorder that I know that a clinician actually has to affirm. Like if someone's suicidal and comes to you, you don't have to affirm their suicidal thoughts and give them a loaded gun. Or if someone comes to you with an eating disorder, you're not going to give them sandwiches in a garbage can. Or if someone's coming to you depressed, you're not going to give them more shit to be depressed about. You don't affirm their depression. You don't affirm their eating disorder. You don't affirm them wanting to kill themselves. But why do we have to affirm someone that thinks they may be someone else when we know, based on real clinical studies, that this is actual mental health disorder?
I mean, I agree with you. And ultimately, when we're talking about adults, which, by the way, we can't determine what an adult is in this country to save our lives.
We can't determine what's a man and a woman.
We can't do that either. But I said 18, 21, 23, 25. We can't figure it out. But anyways, an
I'm
adult,
12. I want to chop my penis off, though. You get the green light.
Listen, the drinking age should be 18. The smoking age should be 18. Everything should be 18. You're an adult at 18. You can be charged for a crime as an adult at 18. You can join the military at 18. You're a legal adult at 18, and you should be entitled to every opportunity that every other adult has, including buying a weapon. That is my stance. I think it's BS that people can't drink till they're 21. By the way, I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not saying this because I'm somehow upset. Plus, I'm not 18. But when it comes to an adult, if they want to play out their sexual fantasies however the hell they deem fit in their own private bedroom, go for it. But when you want to pretend that your desires or your fantasies somehow entitle you to invade other people's privacy in a bathroom or a locker room, or that you somehow are entitled to share a bedroom with somebody of the opposite biological sex because you think that you're a man or you think that you're a woman, yeah, that's invading somebody else's privacy. That's where the line's drawn. That's where it's no longer about your individual rights. It's about the fact that you are now invading on other people's rights.
And that's the argument that always comes from the left. They take the exception and make the exception the rule every time. The small percentage is always what needs to happen for the better good for the left.
Well, I would classify it as going to the least common denominator or the lowest common denominator, right? We have to do what's best for the lowest common denominator. And the other thing that we've conflated in this country is the idea that the government is somehow responsible for the well-being of those that are impoverished. Well, nowhere in the Bible does Jesus say, hey, when you see somebody in need, I want you to call your local government and ask them to provide support to that individual. No. It says the church does it. You should, right? And we conflated this idea, and this was one of the arguments I had with that pastor of the church that I left, because the same year was the Family Medical Leave Act. Well, you know, it's what's good for our congregation. No, what's good for the congregation is that if somebody's in need or somebody needs help or somebody's hurt, or somebody's family member's hurt, that the church goes and supports that individual, not the government. Because when you continue to essentially usurp your own responsibilities to the government, Christianity just becomes weaker and weaker and weaker because now you're bound to the government. And what's happened across the last 100 years in this country is the Christian church, Catholic Church, Christians have just said, you know what, we no longer have to provide care because the government's going to do it. And so we don't have to pay attention to that part of our faith. We can just rely on the government to do it. And the other problem is that the church has this wrong idea of how church funds should be used to help people. So, you know, it says right there in Timothy breaks this down that says, hey, if somebody is in need, if somebody cannot work not because they're lazy, but because they physically can't do it, or somebody that cannot provide for themselves or their family because they can't do it, not because they don't want to, that the church is there to support them. It also says that if you are married, if you're a woman and you're married and you become a widow, what does Paul say to Timothy?
Enlighten me.
He says, you should go get remarried. Why? Because you are of marrying age, and instead of you sitting there and relying on the local church to fulfill your needs, go remarry. That's what he says. It's in the Bible. Because we're not supposed to be sitting there draining the church's resources for people that are able to provide for themselves and are choosing not to. And we're also not there to provide all of these resources, financially, whatever, to those that are choosing not to work. And instead what we do is we continue to cave to the left, and we continue to use church resources to, you know, essentially provide a place to stay for the drug addicts and the people that don't want to get off the drugs and alcohol. And then look at the government and say, hey, we want you to provide all the support for these other people instead of doing it ourselves.
Yeah. And then let's go a little step further. And you're just talking about Americans. Let's talk bigger picture. We're out here in Colorado, sanctuary city, state-ville land. How does that drain the resources at the state level?
I think the immigration cost in this state is $1,600 a year a family, a household. It might actually be more. I don't remember what the number is, but it's in the thousands
that
of dollars.
Cost us, me and you.
That it costs every taxpayer in this state. That's how much resources are being drowned.
Hold on before you go on it. I want you to listen to this clip then, because it has to do with insurance rates.
Okay.
In the state of Colorado. Let's play cut 3.
You had Daniel Lamon on your show. We did. She was on my show. She talked about the reason why car insurance is so expensive in Colorado is because the uninsured illegal immigrants.
Of course it is.
And the fact that like she used to own a state or an insurance agency, and she would have people that would get hit by illegals that didn't have insurance.
Yep.
And then her own insurance company is having to pay out their own clients that were hit by illegals.
Yeah, she was an Allstate gal.
Which is crazy. Think about that. Your company that represents you is having to pay you because the illegals don't have insurance.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why our insurance is so high.
Meanwhile, I got in a car accident back in, I think it was December of 22. I had underinsurance policy, and my insurance company refused to pay out my underinsurance policy. And I just got an email yesterday that we finally have a trial date for me to sue my own insurance company to pay for my bills from somebody that hit me that had the bare minimum insurance, and they don't want to pay it out. So
I don't mean to laugh, but just the irony.
But yes, now let's go back, because now we got to circle all the way back. Is it right in our constitutional republic to demand that people carry insurance in the first place?
Is it right to have people in your country that are here illegally?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But that's really easy question.
I'm just making sure we haven't changed anywhere.
Well, no, it's not. It's not a very deep question. It's like laws of the land. You want to come in legally, come in legally. Nobody hates immigrants in this country. I had Mexican food for lunch. I had Thai food yesterday. Like I love other nations' food. American food is like whatever. Like I'm so glad we have immigrants. But come here legally. It's really that simple.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. There's a process. There's a way to do it.
You can't go anywhere else in the world and just plant yourself and then expect all of your stuff to be paid for.
And then have all the protections of the Constitution as well. Because
And good luck even trying to gain citizenship or entry into some of these countries. They won't let you in.
Oh, no way.
They're not going to let you in.
No way. But what's your take on the sanctuary policy itself? How do these policies ever get reversed if they do?
You just follow the law of the land.
They don't.
Well, I know they don't, but that's.
Well, have you seen what other these blue states are doing, creating this democratic allegiance for the electoral college? Have you seen what they're doing?
I don't understand why we are making this complicated. That's what kills me sometimes about our political landscape, is we want to make everything so complicated, right? How do we solve illegal immigration? Well, we follow the law.
Yeah, there's laws on the books that deal with all of it. Whether you come here illegally or not, when you get ordered to go, right? You see now illegal immigrants are starting to get hit with fines for being here.
Where?
The Trump administration is mailing out fines, and the daily fine, according to U.S. law, is $998 a day.
So let me get this right. We are spending $1 to mail a letter for a bill that's never going to be paid?
Yes.
Wow, what a great waste.
I'll have it for the show next week, but there's a lady, they did a news report. I saw it online. She has a outstanding bill of like $2.6 million because she's been ordered to deport since like 93 and she never left.
So we're going to send them a letter instead of just going and physically removing them?
Yes.
I don't understand why that is. I can't even celebrate that. I can't even celebrate. Like, hey, we're going to fine these people $990. Why? You're not going to collect the fine. Just go round them up and take them back to where they came from.
But we stopped mass deportations. Have you noticed? Have you noticed any mass deportations going around?
Last time I checked, the Trump administration had deported fewer people than the previous administration. Now, I will say, previous administration did not have the lawfare that went on to try to stop Trump from deporting people. But the idea that somehow we had this like mass roundup, we didn't.
No, I agree.
We didn't. We need to.
I know. If you let 20 million people in over 4 years, and then over the next 4 years, let's say you get 2 million out, you're at a net loss at 18 mil still in. And what do you think is going to happen to those people that survive the sweeps? They're going to get more. They're going to get more perks next time around.
Now the upside.
They're going to get rewarded for surviving.
Now, giving credit to where credit is due, Trump's administration has drastically reduced the amount of people entering this country.
Yes.
We just need to drastically increase the amount of people that we are deporting from this country. And what I will say is this: I totally, 100% support a logical plan to grant amnesty to certain illegals that are here, so long as they, right now, at this current day, at this current moment, begin to pay their taxes and they are working. And Trump had that plan for agriculture employees. However, I think there's one little flaw to his agriculture illegal immigration plan. But anyways, I'm totally down to allow the people that are doing very valuable jobs and very valuable things in this country to stay. But we need to instantly, like today, number one, stop giving them any federal help. And number two, they need to start paying their taxes. And they need to basically go and surrender themselves to get their green card to be here. And if Trump had a plan like that, I think it would make both sides very happy. And I think it would create a clear path towards citizenship in this country for some of these illegals that are a valuable part of society. But those that do not have a job, that want to suck the government's tit, they need to be gone tomorrow.
Trump didn't run on that platform, though. So notice how that moved on Trump already. Trump was running on mass deportations.
Trump ran on no new wars. What are we in?
I know. The Republican Party's shot, dude. Shot.
We don't even. We have issues. We have massive issues. We need to start looking at what is best for Americans.
And that could easily be done if we didn't have special interest and foreigners controlling our politicians.
100%.
And let's call a spade a spade. That's why we always finish at the bottom of the barrel, because they step right over us because we don't have access to them.
You know, I said I've said for a long time, I said, number one, the one thing that Republicans should do is they should just legalize marijuana federally. That's number one. I stand by that. Why? Because I think, number one, we really don't have a place to tell people whether or not they can do a drug that really is not harming the rest of society. But you also have to get rid of the welfare because you don't want the potheads just sucking on the tit either. So you have to get rid of the welfare, but then you just allow for, federal legalization of marijuana. The second thing that we should do is we should go into Puerto Rico. We should revitalize Puerto Rico, and the Republicans should, and give Puerto Rico its statehood. You would win over the people of Puerto Rico for decades. The Republicans would win Puerto Rico for decades. And then you do the same thing to Guam, and you give these people that are, quote unquote, a part of America, but not really a part of America, you give them the rights of every American, you take them on as a state, and you revitalize and provide them with support. And you could win over and change a lot of votes in this country. You'd have the Puerto Ricans on your side all across the country. There are a lot of things that the Republicans could do to take back our constitutional republic and do so in a way that will, appease the other side, but yet staying true to our constitutional republic and our ability of being a free society.
Last question on Colorado. We went international. I wasn't ready for
Puerto
that
Rico. We didn't even talk about Colorado. What are you talking about?
We went through Colorado a little bit. The state legislature. Come on now. The illegal immigrant drivers causing car insurances going up. Then you took us all the way halfway around the world. I want to ask you one more thing about the Colorado GOP, though. What's your thoughts on Victor Marx?
I have released a lot of videos on my channel, Spiritual Insurgency, on Victor Marx. I have a lot more to release. Victor Marx is, I don't know what he is. And I'm gonna say it this way. I think that he very well could be tied to some sort of foreign intelligence. I know that he has a long colored background in Israel. I also believe that Victor Marx is taking his cues from somebody, I don't know who, but his campaign is fraught with lies. His life is nothing but a lie. His kids have lied for him. They've made up stories of assaults that's clearly made up. The whole situation where Victor Marx supposedly got shot on his property by his brother-in-law that went on to go kill his girlfriend in Las Vegas. All of that is just nonsensical. And the idea that you would give a gun to somebody that you knew was that violent, that just shows, I don't know what it shows. Lack of intelligence on Victor Marx's part. The problem is in Colorado is Scott Bottoms and Victor Marx will most likely split a lot of the Republican vote, and you're probably going to end up with Kirkmeyer going through. I don't know how much of the Victor Marx hoopla is fake or real. We already know that his tracer report got tons of issues.
We got Mark Cook coming on next week to talk about it.
I would call it most likely fraud.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like fraud. There are so many issues with this campaign, I don't even know where to begin. All I know is that Victor Marx is probably going to have some Democrat money supporting him. We're going to see what they did to Ron Hanks back in 24, where the Democrats came in with millions of dollars of, I don't want to call them attack ads because they were support ads for Ron Hanks.
Okay.
They ran, do you remember this?
No, I do not.
They ran all these ads that said that Ron Hanks was too conservative for Colorado. in an effort to make sure that Ron Hanks won the primary so that they could beat him in the general.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's going to happen to Victor Marx. I think the Democrats are going to go, we need Victor Marx to win the primary because he has so much crap in his closet that we can just release it all during the general election. The Democrats are going to float away with this election. I think that might happen, or it could be that Victor Marx and Scott Bottoms split some more conservative vote and Barb Kirkmeyer walks through the primary. I think it's too early to tell, but I think this is an absolute cluster. But I'm voting for Scott Bottoms.
Hear you.
Scott Bottoms did marry me and my wife, so yes,
Okay.
there is a
little connection.
I'm a little biased.
Yeah, a little connection. That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. This Marx guy just comes off as an op to me, but from where I couldn't tell you. Like being on Benny Johnson's show, like Victor Marx does nothing in Colorado. Am I wrong with this?
No, he collects lots of money in Colorado.
No.
He does his circus show on the road at all the churches in Colorado.
Right. Does he sit down and do interviews, questions, debates, anything with the people of Colorado?
He won't show up.
Okay. So he doesn't do anything with the people of Colorado. He won't show up. But he'll show up on the Benny Johnson show. Why is that? And why would Benny call him to put him on? Right? Just things I ask. You don't have to answer that. Just questions I ask myself. And then him with Erica Kurt a couple days after Charlie's assassination. Very intimate photos being shown. Candace Owens doing a hit piece on him playing it cool, calm, collective, and basically dismissing it, and it disappears. So this guy, to me, it has all the markings of someone that's being propped up by someone big time for whatever reason, and that's a little concerning to me. And I'm not saying I know everything. I just go off of what I see. I'm a regular Joe Schmo, and I see things. I work here. I have conversations with people, but I've seen this go on for months now, and bringing in 1.6 million, never talking to really any voters in Colorado that I've seen, not participating in any debates, sitting in his glass tower at the convention when everyone else was down on the floor, just all of it. Who's he connected to, and how does he have this arrogance about him that it's a done deal already? Because that's what I get from him. There's an arrogance to him.
Well, it's a show.
That's a done deal.
It's a show.
He's not working too hard, though. He's not working hard.
He's got millions of dollars. He's got people that are literally telling him what to do, telling him where to go.
Right, but where's that coming?
Giving him the
where's
persona.
it coming from?
Let's put it this way. Israel spent millions of dollars in the state of Colorado to push a pro-Zionism message. And they outspent in Colorado compared to other states, many other states. Why? Because they're losing the Zionism message in this country. Victor Marx brings the Zionist message. And we already know there's plenty of connections to Israel. That's why I'm saying I think that there's probably some sort of strong connection there. I don't have anything to directly prove it. And I don't wish to be sued for defamation anytime soon, so I'm going to keep this open-ended as I think. And here's what I believe. And none of this is straight up I'm claiming to be factual, other than the fact that there are some huge flaws in his story of how his daughter got assaulted. That one's atrocious. The guy that got arrested for that, I think that he has a huge case to go back and ask for an appeal, because that was some crappy police detective work. That was I'm assuming he had a public defender, because that case should have been a walkover. Yeah.
But yeah. Just food for thought. I just wanted to hear where you were with him, because I'm seeing things, and I'm nobody, but I get a little platform here to do a little talk, so I have some research in my head, and I pose questions, and I just cut it loose, because I'm a curious fella.
That's where I obviously Victor Marx has been an integral part of the Colorado church community for a very long time. Same with Yemi Mobolade, right? Like the mayor of Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
He started Cause I Love You. He was a very important part in the community of churches in Colorado Springs. And he went along to all the Colorado Springs churches, and he pushed himself as this great Christian minister. And then if you look at how he operated his business and the fact that he had Black Lives Matter signs everywhere, LGBTQ signs at his business, I mean, he may or may not have been involved in a fake hoax Jesse Smollett situation.
Okay.
But yet I go to church one Sunday and here's a video from Yemi Mobilade on the screen. And I was like, I so want to walk out right now and never come back because this guy is a fraud. And the fact of the matter is that as Americans today, it is so easy to lie to us and for Americans to believe it. And there are very few people that question these things and question whether or not it's right. And so for years and years and years, I heard the name Victor Marx. I heard him being propped up on stages across El Paso County. I heard him being the poster child for ending human trafficking. He was all over El Paso County. He's been all over this country, pushing this message that he somehow is involved in ending human trafficking, but there's no receipts. He can't provide any sort of factual, proven results. And it goes back to the same thing as Yemi. You have Yemi, you have Victor Marx, you have a whole host of names that get in front of the church, preach some message, tie it to some gospel, whether or not it's theologically correct, and Americans just believe it. We believe this lie that somehow Christian Zionism is an accurate representation of our theology, that what would be considered dispensationalism is accurate. So you're telling me that in the last 300 or 400 years, dispensationalism is the correct theology, but it wasn't the correct theology back at the time of Jesus? Like, we somehow had a revelation 1,500 years later that dispensationalism was the correct interpretation of the Bible? Took 1,500 years to figure that out?
Well, also the language of the founding of our country, Judeo-Christian. Are we a Judeo-Christian nation? Were we founded on Judeo?
No.
Right, but
we've.
But we believe it because that's what we're told from jump.
That's what we're told.
We never actually think about it. What Jewish principles are built into the founding principles of our country?
None.
Exactly. But the charade has been, we're founded as a Judeo-Christian nation. And you know when that came from? I found this out. World War II times. World War II times.
Well, you have to get the backing of a larger country in order to essentially protect a nation like Israel.
True.
Give them its founding and then protect it for long enough that Israel can sustain themselves. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say that I believe that Israel shouldn't exist. But I think Israel should be like any other nation, where if you want to exist, go exist and solve your own dang problems.
And I agree with you. And I wish we paid attention to George Washington when he left in his farewell address. Two big points that I love that he said. Stay isolationist, right? Do not get intertwined with political alliances, and do not develop into a two-party system. And here we are. Political alliances rule us, and the two-party system destroy us because we have no choices. It's all one way or all the other, right? We've gotten so far away from it over our evolution, and we're an experiment. Remember, we're an experiment.
Yeah.
No other country was founded the way we were. No other country has the documents that we have. We're a 250-year-old experiment, and this experiment might fail.
It very well could, and it's going to depend on the people. And the problem is that from our very childhood, our teachers and our education system has tried to tear down the founding ideas of this country. And so when we look at generation after generation after generation, how do we solve this problem? We have to take back education to a certain degree. Education is a huge component of how do you restore our constitutional values? How do you restore the values of the founding of this nation? You have to go back to step one. You have to start teaching it in your schools. And parents, if you can't teach it if they're not teaching it in their schools, you have to teach it at home. And we don't want to do that. It's too hard. But if you want to fix this problem, number one, You need to teach the founding ideas of this country to your children, and the schools aren't going to do it, which means that you have to do it. And number two, you can't rely on the pastor at your church to be your only source of information on what is theologically correct. We have to start checking everything that comes through to our children and into our own brains. And we have to say, is this actually accurate? Is this actually true? Is this actually right? And if you start doing that, you're going to find the majority of the information that comes out is not fully truthful.
It takes time and effort, and less Americans devote that time and effort. And that pendulum needs to swing back, because if we're just going to blindly trust what our leaders are telling us, we're going to lie ourselves into a big black hole that we'll never get out of. And that's the republic that we need to get away from and towards the shining light republic, right? We don't want to go to the democracy side. Mob rule. Nasty left, man, nasty left. They'll come for us. We need the republic on the shining hill where it's a balancing act. It's ugly, it's slow, but rights are protected.
Yeah, we pass too many laws in this country.
You have to, for every new law, you got to take 5 away.
100%. That's what should be the rule.
You know, you can't just keep adding more and more. And then new laws actually contradict laws on the book, so nothing really makes sense.
Well, and now we're to the point where every American breaks a law like once an hour, if not more. I sped on the way up here, so.
Thank you for making it on time.
I was actually already up here. I was trying to get my GPU repaired for my computer at Micro Center.
Oh, there you go. I've just heard about that store yesterday.
It's a really cool store. Yeah. But when I took it in, they said, it's perfectly fine. It must be a software issue. So now I got to go home and resolve that.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
So,
Jason, would you like to pray us out today?
Yeah.
All right, let's pray us out. We're going to end it, folks. We got another block, but we're running a little late, and I'm going to have Jason pray us out.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we have to fellowship. Thank you for these listeners, Lord, that they may hear something and that you use this platform, Joe's platform, us as your mouthpiece, Lord, that the listeners may hear something and find either comfort or hope, or find a longing to gain a closer relationship with you, Lord, that we are grateful that we have this opportunity to be in front of these people, Lord. And I pray for Patrick's case next week, that you would just be there with him, give his attorneys the words to speak, Lord. Fill him with the Spirit. And Lord, we pray for Joe, for his fast healing and health, so he can come back and be with us here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well said. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, stay tuned for tomorrow. Schedule may change. Just stay tuned to Rumble. A lot of things moving. So just want to give you a heads up. Might have something else on tomorrow, but we will be airing something at 2, but other thing might not be live is what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure yet. But thanks for joining us today. Stay well. Keep the fight going. Let's fight for the Republic. Class dismissed.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew.